What is your favorite driver's car? I grew up in a family and was fascinated by cars since I was a young kid. I've been fortunate enough to have driven some very nice cars over the years, and I think I've found mine. Follow along to see how we build up my favorite driver's car.
So how do you like the Miata?
I love it.
This car is pretty cool, but she only likes the red wheels on this car right here. I love the entire car. So why am I in this 911 Carrera 4S? Well, if you're talking about ultimate drivers cars, I think this falls into that category. Porsche's always been one of the best cars out there for a good drive, so we're going to compare it to the best. So let's see if we can build the Miata to be basically just as good as this for a fraction of the money, and not only that, be tailored to what I like in a driver's car. Let's compare the Miata to the mighty 911. We'll go over some of the aspects of these cars that make them really great driver's cars. So the suspension on the Carrera 4S, there's really not a whole lot bad to say about it. It's pretty phenomenal. This particular model has the sport suspension or sport chrono package, which comes with the Porsche's active management system. So basically what it means is that you can adapt or control the damping remotely. You can put it on a sportier setting or more comfort cruise setting. With that being said, it's a very comfortable car to drive in. You know, I consider this more like a GT cruiser than maybe my other cars would be the Miata or the Lotus, where those are like pure sports cars and they tend to be a little bit more comfortable. This one's more refined, definitely a little bit better when it comes to luxury or comfort. Definitely something that some people might choose over the other stuff, but I'm looking here for something for a weekend driver. So as a weekend driver, this is really nice. I would probably use this more for like the longer cruises to the country, or maybe like if I'm going out of state. But for the meantime, you know, I think I would like something a little bit more sporty. So let's talk about steering feel. How does this compare to the Porsche? You know, the Porsche is extremely precise. It just does it with such confidence that you feel very secure inside the car, even at high speeds. You know, you got big tires, you have a very well-adjusted Bilstein suspension with, you know, active management systems, and you have your traction control, your ABS, your stability management. The Porsche is just a better car, honestly, if you were to put it in the technical standpoints. But does that mean better for me and what I want? No, not really. I like this. Why? It's because it makes me work hard. The Porsche, I feel like, does a lot of work for me. I like to work and have fun. Otherwise, you know, you would drive around with a chauffeur if you didn't want to drive. So a lot of it comes with me wanting to put the effort. The transmission just works a little bit different. The handling makes you think about it a little bit more. The engine, you have to take advantage of the power band of the engine, which is very low on this one. Although enough for me, honestly, but we're probably going to work on that. The steering input is actually one of the best things on this car. It really does feel so sharp. I don't know, you know, and I guess that combined with the fact that right now it's got pretty bad body roll, so, you know, this is probably why it feels very sharp. It's just not, I'm sure it's sharp, but it's probably just very dramatic right now. It's like every single steering input will make the car go, whoa, what are we doing? So it just makes it exciting all the time. That's going to change. Maybe it'll become a little bit more predictable and a little bit more planted once we do some of the other work that we have mentioned. But I think, you know, the steering on this thing is phenomenal. So the engine, how do I feel about this flat six? I think it's glorious. It is beautiful power delivery. It doesn't feel overpowered, but it doesn't feel underpowered. It's kind of like sweet spot. And you know, with 355 horsepower, and you know, it comes up all the top of the rev range, and it really screams when it does. I really appreciate the throttle response when it's put in sport. It's actually really good, especially particularly now with the motor mounts or the engine mounts. You know, it gets up to speed really quick too. Like when you look at the speedo, you can be, you know, just cruising around and tap it on 6, and it's got enough torque to like propel you forward into the 100-mile territory quickly without you realizing it. The power delivery, and then it's really nice. It's all very predictable. It doesn't come out of nowhere like some turbos might, or some other cars. But here's the thing, the sound is glorious. Noted that this car, the exhaust sound is actually kind of muted and muffled compared to what the in-cabin engine sound is. Let's just put it that way. The sound is this. It's not raspy or anything, because that's more on the exhaust note side. But it has this howl that comes from the intake side, and it's like moving. It just moves you really good. So this thing has a 1.8 4-cylinder inline 4. It basically produces 133 horsepower, or it probably did so in 1996. And I'll be honest, that doesn't sound like a lot, and it is not a lot, but it is not bad though. This car, given that, like we spoke before, it's a momentum driver, you know, it doesn't really need all that much power for you to have fun. As long as you can keep it in the happy rev range. And it's actually very impressive how linear and how torquey the rev range is. Like all across the rev range, you have some kind of the same power and same torque all across the rev ranges. Like you have 100 foot-pounds of torque at 2,000 RPM, and you have that at 6,000 RPM. So it kind of feels like you're always on the power band. I love that about it, as a matter of fact. You know, here's the thing, will we go with a turbo or something like that? I kind of don't want to go with a turbo. First of all, it's very common. Second, it just feels like it will take away that linearity of the power band. So I might actually stick to something different. We thought about the supercharger, less input, you know, less power output, but it also it has more linear powers. But here's the thing, maybe I don't do a supercharger. Maybe we go with an engine swap. Popular options, K20, K24, and a V8. So let's move on to the transmission. Why do I feel about this transmission? It's good. It's not bad at all. I think all these cars that are, you know, at a certain price point will come with fairly good transmissions, especially 6-speed manuals or 7-speed manuals nowadays with the new Porsches. This one in particular was not all that great for some reason. I think it might have been because of the age of the car. It's also, you know, 15-year-old car. It's got several, you know, 80,000 miles on it, so it might be, it has a little bit of wear. But ever since I changed the engine mounts to the semi-solid engine mounts, I do feel like there's a lot more, you know, it's a lot more engaging and positive. When you do go into that gear, it feels more direct, versus before it kind of felt a little bit mushy, and maybe you're not so sure if the gear had gone in or not. And you know, it's improved quite a bit, I would say, with the engine mounts. And from the factory, brand new, it was probably crisp and sharp. But right now, you know, when I compare it to to other cars that I've driven, particularly the Miata for some reason, this doesn't feel as positive as the Miata does. So, you know, the clutch is also, it's got like a little bit of a dead zone at the beginning, and then it kind of engages a little bit further out. I don't think, it might be again some wear and tear. It's not bad though. And the clutch does this thump if you let it slip, you know, if you accidentally let it come out too quick, it goes boom, and you can hear the car go like that. I don't do that, but I know some people who think they're quick shifting, and when they try that stuff, it's nerve-wracking. So moving on to what I consider to be a very close second favorite thing about this car is the transmission. Oh my god, I love this 5-speed. It just has the best feel of any transmission I've driven so far. Maybe only second to a Honda S2000. I don't know, that car has possibly the best transmission ever built, but I have not driven a gated manual shifter from either a Ferrari or an Audi R8 or a Lamborghini. So let's just say that as far as I know, this is the second best transmission feel I've had by a small margin from first. So it's, as opposed to the Porsche where it has some smoothness and luxury feel to it, this one has that clunk that just makes it so satisfying every time you push that one gear into place. It just delivers this clunky but rather very it's also smooth. You know, it clunks in, or basically it goes in, it is smooth, but it clicks in. It's like a toggle switch action. So I love that about this car, because it makes you feel like you're confident in what gear you put in. Even if you went into first from fourth gear and blow up spectacularly, you got it. You put that gear in there. So and the looks, well, comparing it to a Miata, right? This particular car, Carrera 4S, with a factory aero package, paint to sample wheels, that's kind of hard to beat, especially considering that the 997 generation is already becoming an iconic generation as far as look goes. You know, it was Porsche's return to their round headlight after messing around with the 996. So this is a really hard one to beat as far as looks go. I'm not gonna say that I feel this car is particularly more beautiful than the Miata. A lot of you might think I'm crazy, but you know, I think the Miata, if we do it really nice, it will look just as good, especially with those pop-up headlights. Like that's the sweet spot right there for me. This one's got the big wing and the fat butt, but that Miata's got pop-up headlights, and this one does not. So looks, I'll give this one an A+, but the Miata gets an A+ too. All right, so some people, you know, some people might debate the looks of this car. You know what? I think it's absolutely fantastic. Again, the pop-up headlights is the only car I've ever had with pop-up headlights, and I absolutely adore it. I love the little rounded shape of the car. It's also become, you know, it also has a vintage look to it. It doesn't look old, it looks vintage from its era. So yeah, I like how this car looks. I don't think I'm going to modify much, you know, staying in tune with the wheel size. I'm probably going to do 15-inch wheels, but I wouldn't go any bigger than that. I also don't want to drop it down to the ground too far. You know, and I want to paint it. That is the coolest thing about this whole thing. I do want to paint it. What are we going to paint it? What is it going to look like? I don't know. Again, I love timeless vintage, you know, look to things. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see what we can do with it. You know, these are going to be the new little Triumph TR6s or TR5s. Are going to be the new MGs. Are going to be the new British Roadster, but dependable and good for every day. So that's kind of the cool thing about this car. I think it looks wonderful. Obviously, it doesn't have the wow factor of the 911 or any other sports car or supercar that's more modern, but it does still has its own style and identity. I enjoy it. I love it. Let's keep it simple.
I don't want a race car. I want to take this Miata, bring it back to life, and enhance all the great qualities it has to offer. Follow us in the next episode to see how we will make this Miata my ultimate driver's car.